Okay, folks, here's a quick tutorial to cover a student question about making a really kind of melty snowball form. So let's go into that. So in previous episodes, we made a snow figure by taking the sphere and copy and pasting and putting it on top of another sphere, etc. And then we used the displacement material and stuff like that. Another way to make a really kind of bumpy, naturalistic, snowball-like form is to actually take a landscape. So if you grab a landscape, it doesn't look like a sphere, but in the attributes manager down here, you can click on spherical. And with that, then you get a spherical form, right? So we can scale this down. Notice how the texture gets intensified. We're going to go to the size here and the height. We're going to bring that down so we get more of like that kind of snowball-y form. All right, so that already has some good textures to it. If we increase the width segments, maybe I'll make this 200, we'll get even more details. And then of course, don't forget in objects like these, you can change the seed to get a form that you like. I don't mind number 4, so I'm going to go with that. All right, now to get this to be a little bit more melty, we can actually use the deformer and the melt tool. So with that, we put it on here. It's going to just give us this kind of really generic, melty sort of form. I can increase it. This might be a good, like the bottom piece, perhaps a bit more melty like that. But you can change some parameters. So first of all, with melt, one thing to try is to move it up and down to see how that affects the form, right? That's going to do some things. The other thing is we have these controls in the attributes manager. So the first one to try is this radius. So if we bring the radius down, we're going to get more levels of that melt form, right? Even to something really kind of weird like that. Next would be the noise scale. So if that goes up, then we get finer details of that noise, and that's obviously way too melty, but we can also change the strength. So between strength, radius, and noise scale, you can get a variety of different sort of really more melty kind of forms, right? And that may help. And don't forget, also try to move the melt around. That helps to give more forms to come through. And then finally, the melt scale. If you make this 400, it's one thing, but you can also make it 100. That's going to change. And then there's also something called the vertical randomness. So if you click on this and move it, you can see you get less melt, more melt, kind of the verticality of it changes a bit. So that's something that you can alter. And between, tweaking the strength and the radius, I feel like you could get something that's pretty melty. And always remember that you can always go back to the landscape itself, and you can make more rough furrows. That's going to give it more dimension. You can change the height of the texture. That's going to give it more dimension. So between some of these things, you could get pretty close. And if this doesn't work for your snowball melty kind of needs, the next step would be going into sculpting. So look for a tutorial for that as well. So again, you can change lots of different parameters under these attributes managers to get us something that could be effective for that melty form. All right, all for now. I'll see you soon.